There is something sitting on your kitchen counter right now, something you reached for this very morning without a second thought, and I need you to understand that this one thing may be the single greatest saboteur of your hormones, your energy, your mood, and your waistline during this chapter of your life. What I am about to share with you is not a trend or a fad. It is rooted in the biochemistry of what happens inside a woman's body when estrogen begins to decline. And once you see the mechanism, you will never look at your kitchen the same way again. Let me paint you a picture. It is 6:45 in the morning. The alarm has pulled you from a sleep that was not nearly deep enough. You woke twice in the night, once drenched in sweat, once with your heart hammering for no reason. You shuffle to the kitchen, still heavy with fatigue, and you reach for comfort. Maybe it is the crinkle of a cardboard box, the soft hiss of cereal pouring into a bowl. Maybe it is the satisfying pop of a toaster, bread spread with jam or honey. Maybe it is a glass of orange juice, cold and bright, or a muffin from the bakery, or a granola bar at your desk. It feels normal. It feels healthy. Some of these foods carry labels that say heart healthy and whole grain and natural. And every single morning, within minutes of the last bite, a cascade of biochemical events begins inside your body that will determine the intensity of your hot flashes, the depth of your brain fog, the sharpness of your irritability, the stubborn fat around your midsection. And you have no idea it is happening. I need to tell you about Margaret. Margaret came to see me at 57, and when she sat down, the first thing she said was, "I feel like my body has turned against me." She was a retired school administrator who had always prided herself on eating well. Her breakfast for 30 years had been a bowl of bran cereal with skim milk and a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. Bran for fiber, skim milk for low fat, orange juice because fruit was good for you. Every nutritional guideline confirmed this was a virtuous breakfast. And yet, in the 2 years since menopause had fully arrived, Margaret's body had become unrecognizable. She was experiencing devastating hot flashes. Not occasional warmth, but full-body eruptions of heat that left her drenched and shaking. Arriving with clockwork regularity, she had started tracking in a notebook every 90 minutes, every single day. She had gained 14 pounds, almost all concentrated around her midsection. Her brain fog had become so severe that she had twice forgotten to pick up her grandchildren from school. Something that filled her with shame so deep she could barely speak about it. And the irritability was quietly straining her marriage in ways that frightened her. I asked Margaret to wear a continuous glucose monitor for 2 weeks and simply eat the way she always did. When she came back and we looked at the data together, the color drained from her face. Her healthy breakfast was spiking her blood glucose to 185 milligrams per deciliter, alarming by any standard. And then, within 90 minutes, crashing down to 62. And here is the detail that made Margaret go very quiet. Those hot flashes she had been tracking, the ones that arrived every 90 minutes, they matched her blood sugar crashes perfectly. Her body was not randomly malfunctioning. It was responding with precise biochemical predictability to a trigger she was creating every morning at her breakfast table. Let me explain exactly what was happening inside Margaret's body, because the same thing is very likely happening inside yours, and the science behind it is both fascinating and, frankly, a little unsettling. When you eat a breakfast dominated by refined carbohydrates, cereal, toast, granola, fruit juice, muffins, pastries, those carbohydrates are broken down into glucose with remarkable speed. Within 20 minutes, your blood is flooded with sugar, and your pancreas releases a surge of insulin to sweep that glucose into your cells. In a younger woman with robust estrogen levels, this system works elegantly. Insulin does its job, blood sugar stabilizes, the body moves on. But here is what changes after menopause. Estrogen is not merely a reproductive hormone. It plays a critical role in insulin sensitivity, in how effectively your cells respond to insulin's signal. When estrogen declines, your cells become progressively resistant to insulin. Your pancreas, trying desperately to clear the glucose flood, produces even more insulin than it would have 10 years ago. The spike goes higher. The crash comes harder, faster, and deeper. That crash is where the devastation begins. When blood glucose drops too quickly, your body interprets it as an emergency. Your adrenal glands fire off adrenaline and cortisol, the fight-or-flight hormones, because from your body's primitive perspective, dangerously low blood sugar means you might be starving, you might be in danger. That adrenaline surge destabilizes your hypothalamus, the tiny brain region controlling your internal thermostat. It triggers vasodilation, a sudden widening of blood vessels near the skin's surface, and heat pours out of your body in a rushing, drenching wave. That is a hot flash. That is what Margaret was experiencing every 90 minutes, perfectly synchronized with her glucose crash. Not random, not mysterious. A predictable biochemical consequence of what she ate every morning. But the damage does not stop with hot flashes. That cortisol creates a cascade of secondary effects touching virtually every symptom of menopause. Cortisol and your sex hormones share a common precursor molecule called pregnenolone, raw material your body uses to manufacture either stress hormones or sex hormones, but not both at full volume simultaneously. When cortisol is demanded multiple times per day because your blood sugar keeps crashing, your system prioritizes survival over reproduction, diverting pregnenolone away from the already declining production of estrogen and progesterone. This is called the pregnenolone steal, and it means a sugar-heavy breakfast is not just causing symptoms, it is actively accelerating the hormonal decline that drives them. Your breakfast is making your menopause worse, faster, and more severe than it needs to be. And then there is the weight. So many women tell me, with genuine bewilderment, I am eating less than ever, exercising more than ever, and still gaining weight around my stomach. Insulin is the primary fat storage hormone in the human body. When insulin is elevated during those post-breakfast spikes, your body is in storage mode, converting glucose into fat. In the presence of elevated cortisol, it preferentially stores that fat as visceral fat, the deep abdominal fat that wraps around your organs. Worse, visceral fat is an active endocrine organ producing inflammatory cytokines that further impair insulin sensitivity and increase cortisol. The breakfast spikes insulin. Insulin stores visceral fat worsens insulin resistance, and the next morning's spike grows even bigger. The waistline expands a little more each month. And what about the mood? The anxiety that seems to come from nowhere, the irritability that flares over the smallest inconvenience, the brain fog that makes you feel like you are thinking through wet cotton. When your blood sugar crashes, your brain, the most glucose-dependent organ in your body, is suddenly deprived of its primary fuel source. Cognitive function falters, focus dissolves, memory becomes unreliable. And that cortisol surge, the one triggered by the crash, directly impairs the production of serotonin and GABA, the neurotransmitters responsible for calm, stable, optimistic mood. The mid-morning emotional crash that so many women attribute to just getting older or just being hormonal is in many cases not a function of age at all. It is a blood sugar event masquerading as a personality change. When I told Margaret all of this, when she saw the glucose data from her own body laid alongside the hot flash diary she had been keeping, something shifted behind her eyes. It was not just understanding. It was something closer to relief, the particular relief that comes from realizing that what felt like chaos was actually a pattern, and that patterns can be interrupted. If what I am describing resonates with you, if you are recognizing your own mornings in Margaret's story, I have put together a comprehensive resource in the description below this video that walks you through exactly how to restructure your breakfast for hormonal balance, including specific recipes and a blood sugar stabilization guide that has already helped thousands of women take back their mornings. Now, let me tell you what happened when Margaret changed her breakfast, because the transformation was faster and more profound than even I expected. We replaced everything with a simple 2-egg omelet loaded with spinach and crumbled feta, served alongside half a ripe avocado. No refined carbohydrates. Instead, complete protein from the eggs stimulating glucagon, insulin's counterbalancing hormone, to keep blood sugar stable. Healthy fats from avocado and cheese slowing gastric emptying, nutrients entering her bloodstream gradually, like a calm river rather than a flash flood. Fiber from the spinach, creating a gel-like matrix that further modulated glucose absorption. Within 10 days, Margaret's hot flashes had reduced by half. The 90-minute episodes of drenching heat became milder, less frequent, and eventually, many days, absent entirely. Within 6 weeks, she lost 8 pounds without counting a single calorie or increasing her exercise. Her husband told her she seemed like herself again. A comment that made her cry because she had quietly believed that woman was gone forever. The brain fog lifted like a curtain drawn back from a window. She described it as waking up inside her own mind. The morning she went an entire day without a single hot flash, she sat at her kitchen table and wept. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of understanding that her body had not betrayed her. She had simply been feeding it the wrong fuel. Now, here is the revelation that changes everything. Those foods Margaret was eating carry health halos. They sit in the healthy aisle, recommended by guidelines written decades ago and never updated for what we now understand about menopausal metabolism. When you look at the glycemic index, how rapidly a food converts to glucose, the numbers are staggering. Bran flakes, 74, white bread, 75, virtually identical, orange juice, 66 to 76, and here is the number that makes women gasp. A chocolate candy bar has a glycemic index of 51. Your healthy cereal spikes blood sugar more aggressively than a candy bar. You have been eating the metabolic equivalent of dessert for breakfast, believing you are making a responsible choice, and your body has been paying for it with hot flashes, belly fat, brain fog, and mood swings. I want to tell you about Denise because her story illustrates something just as important, that you do not need to have a classic unhealthy breakfast for this pattern to affect you. Denise was 52, a marketing executive whose schedule left no room for morning rituals. Her breakfast for years had been a large hazelnut latte and a blueberry muffin from the cafe downstairs, or sometimes a granola bar from her desk drawer, the kind with oats and honey that felt wholesome. She ran 3 times a week, ate salads for lunch, drank plenty of water. She did not think of herself as eating poorly, but in the 18 months since perimenopause began, something had shifted. A crushing fatigue settled over her every afternoon around 3, bone-deep exhaustion that left her sitting in her car in the parking garage, unable to summon the energy to drive home. Anxiety arrived mid-morning as a tight, humming sensation in her chest that had never been part of her personality. Weight crept upward despite her running, concentrating in that same maddening midsection pattern, and her sleep was shattered by night sweats that left her sheets damp and her heart racing. Her primary care provider, noting the anxiety and the sleep disruption, suggested an anti-anxiety medication. Denise was holding the prescription in her hand, genuinely considering filling it, when she came to see me, and I asked her one question that she had never been asked before. Tell me exactly what you eat for breakfast. When we analyzed her morning intake, the picture was clear. The latte alone contained nearly 40 grams of sugar, 10 teaspoons. The muffin added another 35 grams of refined carbohydrates, 75 grams of sugar within the first hour of her day, triggering the exact cascade: insulin spike, crash, cortisol surge, adrenaline release, mood destabilization, thermoregulatory disruption. The anxiety she was about to medicate was not a psychiatric condition. It was her adrenal glands responding to blood sugar freefall. I asked Denise to try a 2-week experiment before filling that prescription. We replaced the latte and muffin with overnight oats. Rolled oats soaked in unsweetened almond milk with a scoop of vanilla protein powder, chia seeds, and raw walnuts, prepared in 3 minutes the night before. She could eat it cold from the refrigerator, faster than ordering her cafe latte. 25 grams of slow-digesting protein to stabilize glucose. Chia seeds forming a gel that slowed carbohydrate absorption. Walnuts providing omega-3 fats that slowed gastric emptying and delivered anti-inflammatory benefits to her brain. By day 4, the mid-morning anxiety had softened. The tight humming in her chest quieted to a whisper. She arrived at afternoon meetings without the familiar dread. By day 12, she sent me a voice message I still remember. I feel a calm steadiness that I have not felt in 2 years. I thought this was just who I was now. Night sweats dropped from 3 or 4 times per week to once or twice, diminishing from drenching episodes to mild warmth. After 2 months, Denise had lost 11 pounds, the exact pounds she had been fighting through exercise alone. Her running pace improved, her energy stabilized. She never filled the prescription. She sent me one more message. I cannot believe it was breakfast. It was breakfast the whole time. This is the truth I want every woman watching this to carry with her. Your body after menopause is not broken. It is not betraying you. It is responding with exquisite biochemical precision to the signals you send it. And the most powerful signal you send every day is your first meal. When that meal is dominated by refined carbohydrates, even those disguised in health halos, you set off a chain reaction amplifying every symptom. Hot flashes, weight gain, mood instability, cognitive fog, sleep disruption, anxiety, fatigue. When you replace it with one built on protein, healthy fat, and fiber, you give your body the stable fuel it needs to navigate this transition with grace and clarity. Let me leave you with breakfasts that have transformed mornings in my practice. And notice, they are not punishments or deprivation. They are abundant, satisfying meals that work with your biochemistry instead of against it. A 2-egg omelet with spinach, sun-dried tomatoes, and avocado. Full-fat Greek yogurt with almonds, pumpkin seeds, cinnamon, and fresh berries. A smoothie with protein powder, almond butter, frozen cauliflower, and coconut milk. Smoked salmon over cucumber with cream cheese, capers, and dill. Overnight oats with protein powder, chia seeds, and walnuts. Every one provides protein to stimulate glucagon, healthy fats to extend satiety, and fiber for that gentle, steady energy release your body craves. The pattern is simple, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The first meal of your day is either your greatest ally or your most persistent saboteur, and the difference between the two is not willpower, not discipline, not some expensive supplement or complicated regime. It is knowledge. It is understanding what your body needs now, in this season, and having the courage to set down the cereal box and pick up the eggs instead. Margaret sits at her kitchen table now with an omelet and a cup of green tea, and she has not had a hot flash in months. Denise opens a jar of overnight oats at her desk every morning, and the anxiety that almost led her to daily medication has become a memory she can barely access. These are not extraordinary women with extraordinary resources. They are women exactly like you who made one change to one meal and watched as that single change rippled outward through their hormones, their energy, their mood, their weight, and their sense of self. If this information has opened your eyes the way it opened Margaret's and Denise's, I want to ask you to do 2 things. First, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so that you never miss the insights that can make this transition not just bearable, but genuinely empowering. And second, share this video with a woman in your life who deserves to know what her breakfast is doing to her body. A sister, a friend, a colleague, a mother. Because the truth is, most women will never hear this from anyone. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone you love is simply to send them a link that changes everything. Your body has been sending you signals, the hot flashes, the weight, the fog, the fatigue, the anxiety, and those signals are not evidence of failure. They are messages, and now you understand what they are saying. Tomorrow morning, when you walk into your kitchen, you will see that counter differently. You will know what the cereal box represents, what the toast does, what the juice triggers inside your changing body, and you will have the power to choose differently, to choose the breakfast your body has been quietly, desperately asking for all along.